Hi there. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Arthritis Life podcast, where we share arthritis life stories and tips for thriving with autoimmune arthritis. My name is Cheryl Crow, and I am passionate about helping people navigate real life with arthritis beyond joint pain. I've been living with rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years, and I'm also a mom, occupational therapist, video creator, support group leader, and I created the Room to Thrive self-management program. I am so excited to help you live a more empowered life with arthritis. We're going to cover everything from kitchen life hacks to navigating the healthcare system to coping with friends who just don't get it. Seriously, no topic is going to be off limits on this podcast. My interviewees and I share our honest stories of how chronic illness affects our lives. This includes discussions about mental health, sex, shame, pregnancy, body image, advocacy, self-acceptance, and so much more. You'll hear stories from all ends of the spectrum, from a person who's living in medicated remission from psoriatic arthritis to somebody living with severe mobility restrictions and severe pain from rheumatoid arthritis. You'll hear how people manage their conditions in different ways, like medications, mindfulness, movement, social support, work accommodations, and so much more. You'll also hear from rheumatology experts who just get it. We'll dive deep into the science behind chronic pain and what's the latest evidence for lifestyle changes that can help you thrive with arthritis, including exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress reduction, and more. This is your chance to sit down and chat with a friend who's been there. Ready to figure out how to manage your arthritis life? Let's get started. Yeah, I'm so excited today to have an interview that's been like 2 years in the making, back and forth while we work through our schedules. So I have Dani today to share her story. Can you let us know, just really quick, where do you live and what is your relationship to arthritis?
So I live in Phoenix, Arizona. So I would consider that to be the hottest state in the United States. It's a dry heat though. And my relationship with arthritis is I suffer with severe rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, and you are known, I should say for people listening, it's Make It Count for Dani. That is what you're known for in the arthritis community. So we're definitely going to talk about the origin stories for that and about how you're passionate about movement and just inspiring others to stay moving. But first, let's start like we always do on this podcast with your diagnosis journey slash saga. How old were you when you got diagnosed? What were some of your symptoms and what was that like?
Well, that is the story, right? That is the saga, like you said. So I am the youngest and the only girl, and I have three older brothers. So there's four of us. And I was the lucky one that got rheumatoid arthritis. I was a real athlete, right? I followed my brothers around. So I'm the girl that's the tomboy that's trying to that's just keep up with her brothers. So I was a really big athlete. I played basketball, I played softball, I played tennis. I mean, you name it, I probably played it. But at the time of the onset with the disease, I was heavy into softball and I was a catcher. So I also am 6 feet tall. Now, back in school, when I was diagnosed, I was probably about 5'9". So I've actually gained some inches since then. But I was playing catcher. So I was constantly in that cross position, holding my glove with my wrist. And I started to feel a lot of pain in my wrists and my elbows and my knees and my feet. And I thought it was part of the job because that's what I was doing. Not only was I playing softball competitively, but I was also coaching softball. So it was like I had a full-time job. I'd go to school and then it was softball before school, softball after school, and it was softball late into the evening.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I was like, that was soccer.
Yeah.
We got the high school team and then the club team. And
Yeah. Yeah. So you're playing on multiple teams and then you're coaching, you're running camps for younger girls. And I really thought it was part of the job, right? Like I'm just running myself ragged and I'm doing all this. And I went to we were doing this state tournament and I woke up really sore and I could barely move my arm because I was throwing so much to second base. And so my coach at the time, it's winter. So the coaches go in the swimming pool at this hotel we're at, right? And they get So I go in the swimming pool and I'm freezing, right? But we're trying to like loosen up my arm, thinking that I'm just sore from throwing to second base. Well, we finished that tournament. It was a great tournament. But the next day, 3 days later, I woke up and I couldn't move my legs out of bed. And I mean, I could see my tell my body to do something, but my body wasn't doing it. And so essentially, I now rushed the doctor because we don't know what's going on. And they had actually thought that I had either muscular dystrophy of some sort, Lou Gehrig's disease. We didn't find out that I had rheumatoid arthritis for months. Because I don't even think anybody put that together. And
Wait, how old were you?
oh, I'm sorry. I was getting to that. Yeah, I was 16. Well, I was 16 when all of this. I found out that I had rheumatoid arthritis at 16, but my symptoms started when I was 15. And you know about the saga, right? If you're going in all these different directions and sometimes you're hitting dead ends because doctors are like, well, is it in your head? Like, no, I'm really feeling. So essentially, I went to a foot specialist because I couldn't put any pressure on my feet. And at this point in time, like, I only lasted in a wheelchair for a day. And then I'm on walking canes and I'm trying to see if there's a way I can put pressure on my feet. I'm like, what can we do? And he looked at me and he looked at all my joints and he said, has anybody ever tested you for rheumatoid arthritis? And I said, I don't even know what that is. Isn't that an old person's disease? Don't you have to be 70? So, and because, well, you're younger than me, but back in the day, all we had were encyclopedias. So
no, that was me. Yeah. I mean, I am 43.
yeah, so you're 7 years younger than me, but yeah, you had encyclopedias back in the day.
Totally.
So we go to the library and we're looking at these pictures, like, and they're telling me my body's going to end up being all curled up. Well, that is kind of what was happening. I literally couldn't move my arms. I couldn't hold pencil or a pen. It's almost like I went crippled overnight, but it had basically lasted weeks and weeks and it just got progressively worse and it just hurt to move. So what happens when it hurts? You don't move, right? Because we're in so much pain. And I consider myself to still be a child at that age, right? It was only 15, 16 when all this was starting.
You are definitely.
And yeah. And mind you, the other big factor in this is that I was on my own. So I was basically trying to survive on my own. My mother was not in the picture. My father had relocated to New York and I was stuck in Tulsa, Oklahoma with a lady and her 2 kids. So I was now navigating what was going on my own. And so to get to the diagnosis is the foot specialist offered to do a blood test because I said, well, I can't afford to do a blood test. And he said, well, I'll take care of it for you. And that's how I found out that I had the RH factor in my body. So the blood test came out positive. And then I went to go see my first rheumatologist about a month later, who basically was the worst person in my entire life and said that I'd be in the wheelchair by the time I was 21.
Wait, let me do math. What is this in the 90s?
1991.
Yeah. I mean, that is the reality for some people with severe rheumatoid arthritis before the current era of biologics.
Totally. That didn't last very long because I left Oklahoma. He obliterated my life. Okay. That's when you talk about the saga and how my saga went all downhill from there. I met depression unlike any depression I'd ever met in my life.
So he told you, like, you're sitting here, like, you've been looking for answers. Your podiatrist or the foot specialist tells you that your blood work was positive. You need to go, you probably have rheumatoid arthritis. Let's go see a rheumatologist. And so you walk in the rheumatologist and they're just really like down in the dumps about it, right?
Oh, I brought in, so Cheryl, back in the day, I was quite the athlete. So I had a binder filled with news articles about all these the newspapers would come and do articles on me because I was just a diehard athlete. And I took that binder with me and said, I need to get my life back here because I've got to be able to go play college sports and I want to go to the Olympics. And I tell his dentist and he said, it's not going to happen. It's basically, that's how the conversation was. Hard stop. yeah, you need to prepare to be in a wheelchair. And so I literally believed him. I mean, I remember crying and crying for days. And yeah, it was awful. So
The fact that you had no one there to help you, like as an adult, I'm just so, I wish we could go back in time and give you a hug and show you what your life would end up being. It's just, wow. I'm so sorry.
I mean, but again, and that's why I'm sitting where I'm sitting today and everything that I have evolved to be and become after going through that pendulum. This disease is such a pendulum. All chronic illnesses are a pendulum shift. You get this horrible news and you literally, it, you believe these powers to be, these doctors. I mean, you go to them, they're your experts, right? Like we really do listen to these doctors as if everything they say is gold. And so, and who else did I have to turn to? Like you're just saying, right? Who else did I have to turn to ask and to find out? So it's been quite the journey since. So,
Well, and I'm just thinking now, I know both of us do a lot of outreach and education and inspiration, I guess you would say, on the internet, on social media. And that's one of the major pluses of social media now for patients is that we can immediately connect to somebody. You could see, oh, Dani's able to do weightlifting and she's moving and Cheryl's swing dancing. And yes, some people, their disease does progress and they're treatment resistant. And sometimes that people are they're still able to craft like a thriving existence for themselves, even quote unquote, if they're in a wheelchair. And it's, you mean, it's, yeah, there's a whole bunch of ableism within that kind of fear of using mobility aids like a wheelchair and stuff like that. But it's just, you had no representation at that time. You didn't have any ability to see another 16-year-old, 17-year-old young adult being able to achieve that, what your goals were. So yeah. How did you cope? I mean, how did you, was it just put one foot in front of the other day by day?
no, in all honesty, I didn't cope very well back then. I abused the medication that they gave me because I wanted the life. And let's be realistic. In school, like kids are not very nice. All right. And I started out, I was a popular athlete at one point in time. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't play sports anymore. And I'm literally hobbling down the hallway. So now I'm like, oh, what's wrong with her? I'm that girl. And it didn't go well for me. The lady I lived with at the time, there was a lot of alcohol in the house. I got introduced to alcohol. I did whatever I could. I compromised my life. It didn't go very well. It was, and then shortly after, in 1995, so 4 years after that diagnosis, it was literally just a tangled, twisted nightmare I was living in. I made my way to Phoenix, Arizona, where my brothers had lived. I was the only one left in Tulsa at the time, so with the diagnosis. And then I made my way to Arizona, where I would then have an epiphany that the only person who could change this was me. So it was almost like a shift overnight. So I had a dream. I could see myself doing things. And it was the very next day I walked into the gym and I started lifting 3-pound weights. With tears in my eyes, by the way. I used to lift a lot more than that. I had to start with very little weights and I had to start all over again. And that shift happened about 6 months after I arrived to Phoenix, Arizona in 95.
Wow. And I mean, I think there really is, I mean, there's so many people I've talked to who have a history as being a strong athlete who get these diseases. And I don't know what it is, but you know, there is that tenacity, that inner drive, right, to push your body in a positive sense, right? And but it can be so hard to not be able to do it how you used to be able to. But I'm just giving you so much credit for taking your health in your own hands.
Yeah, I mean, Cheryl took a long time to get to where I'm at today, right? I wasn't always this person who was promoting movement and doing all this because I didn't have that mentoring, right, in my life to begin with. When I first got, I was just trying to survive, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Even in a dark cave that I felt like I was walking in for a long time. I always tell everybody that the shift didn't really happen. The shift that the person I am today didn't really happen until about 10 years ago in my 40s.
Well, okay, wow. Normally I ask people what their treatment journey has been. And when I say treatment, I mean, often people are put on the medications, which I've been on for 22 years since my diagnosis at age 21. But there's also, I mean it very broadly, saying lifestyle, what are some of the things that have helped you? Obviously, movement is one of them. We're going to delve like deeper into.
Of course.
But you were diagnosed at such a unique time, as it was right before the biologic era. I don't even think methotrexate was on the market in 91.
On the market. So I started with Plaquenil, Ava. You know what that is? So it was a big horse pill. It was like, it's big.
Yeah.
It was literally like an inch, huge horse pill. I had gold. I was on gold injections.
They don't do that anymore, but
Nope. And then I was on 8 pills of methotrexate. And I've tried so many drugs through the years. Life didn't take that shift until biologics. And then I was first introduced to Enbrel, which I probably was on Enbrel for about 5 years with the methotrexate combo at the time. So I took 8 pills of methotrexate for probably about 15 years. And I credit my lung disease to methotrexate.
oh no.
Yeah, with all of the specialists that I've had, we really feel as though the methotrexate had adverse effects with my lungs.
I'm so sorry.
So anyways, when I turned 40, on my 40th birthday, I woke up. So I've had my left wrist is removed, and I've had 6 major hand surgery total. My thumbs are currently fused.
Okay.
And then I have big joints in my right hand. And all my flexion and extension tendons have been redone in my right.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had all of those surgeries done between 2013 and 2015. So in 2015 is when I turned 40, because I just turned 50. So the morning of my birthday, I woke up and I still have my right wrist, and my right hand is my dominant hand. And I woke up the morning of my birthday and I was sobbing, and it felt like my wrist was broken. You know, that onset nothing leads up to it. You just wake up the next day and you're like, why do I feel like my bones, why would I feel broken?
Someone hit me with a baseball bat overnight. There's no other explanation.
Yeah. And so I woke up that morning and my rheumatologist had already brought up Rituxan to me, because I had failed Remicade. I had failed so many treatments.
It fails you. I like to say they failed.
Yes.
You. Yeah.
They failed me because I developed anaphylaxis with Remicade.
Oh no.
I started at the very beginning, and then every allergic reaction got worse and worse until the 3rd dose, when all of a sudden I had to get rushed to the hospital. So it did not go well. But luckily for me, I lived 2 miles from the hospital. So there was that.
I went this almost exact same trajectory as you and I went Enbrel, then Remicade, then for you, Orencia, then Actemra, then now Xeljanz. But it's interesting. It's very common for those listening that you can't get too attached to one medication regimen, because sometimes it'll work. I talked to someone the other day who's been on the same medication regimen and it's been putting her disease in remission for 15 years. Other people, it does it for a little while, like 5 years here, 3 years there, 6 years there, but then somehow your body just decides to work around it somehow. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So I went, I've played with so many of the different biologics. I was on Enbrel for a little while. I quit Enbrel. Then I went natural for 3 years. Then I went back on Orencia. Then I went on Humira. I tried, you name it, I've been on it.
You've had a buffet, a smorgasbord.
Yes. And then when I was 40, they talked to me about Rituxan. I was extremely nervous about Rituxan, but I had reached out to other patients through local connections that I had. And I had heard of some of their success, but I was scared, because I think everybody's scared of a biologic, right? Like a drug that's treating lymphoma. I think these patients get very nervous about these drugs that were at one point in time, obviously combating cancer. So, and Rituxan is still used for cancer patients. It's used in a different dosage. It's just different, right?
No, we methotrexate, like it's not considered chemo at the doses we use.
Right. Yeah. So basically I finally signed I finally got approved. So my birthday's in April. I took my first dose in May 10 years ago. So in 2015, I finally did a first dose of the Rituxan, and I signed my life away at the time. Now, and my company's new, my construction company, which I own here in Phoenix, Arizona, is new. So I'm really young at running this construction company. And so I did the first round of Rituxan, and then it's a 14-day apart. It's 2 rounds, 14 days apart, 1,000 milliliters. So the next time I went in to get the drug, they forced me to sign a document that said I was going to be responsible for $39,000. And I sat in the hallway as an adult, 35, or what? No, I'm sorry, I was 40, crying because I didn't know how on earth am I going to pay $40,000 to pay for this drug.
Well, and that's the whole that shouldn't have been happened that way, because no one in the United States that I'm aware of is paying the price of these drugs, because the drug companies provide need blind assistance because they are making so much money on
Yep.
these. So they'll give you a copay card, and there's a whole, you just have to sign up. But every single one of my meds, I've had a copay card through the drug manufacturer, Pfizer, whoever it is. But they don't, if they don't explain that to you, you freak out, because
Yeah.
that's hundreds of thousands of dollars by the end of the year. Yeah, I'm so sad.
Yeah, so true. And I do have a copay card for Rituxan, but at the time I was literally going into this a little blindly. Apparently I said, well, why am I having to sign this? They're like, well, insurance hasn't
Approved it.
Yeah, they basically said that it hadn't been approved yet. And I'm like, well, I can't afford to pay this. And it was, I mean, I signed the document anyways, and I end up paying about, even today, I end up paying about $8,000 annually, or out of pocket. I'm sorry, $8,000 per round. Because now, before it was $39,000. Now it's $64,000 for me to get this drug. Now, I am still on the name brand. I've tried a biosimilar. Biosimilars didn't work for me. So a couple of years ago, I had a big fight with a biosimilar because, unbeknownst to me, they gave me a biosimilar. 2 months after I thought I got Rituxan, 2 months later, I'm having like major pain. And I'm like, what happened? And it was because they tried a biosimilar. It didn't work for me.
Ugh, that's unconscionable to not give you informed consent of that.
Exactly. And I was livid. And so, there I was calling the hospital. I called my rheumatologist, and I love my rheumatologist, but I was like, this was haphazardly completed. You guys didn't talk to me about this. How did I know that you were giving me a biosim? I had no idea until I then was having a bout with insurance and realized I got this invoice. So
Oh my goodness. But isn't it working well?
it is working really well for me. I mean, that's what's been the catalyst of where I'm at in my life today. And everything that I do and how I do it is because I believe that I have found the perfect regimen in my life, right? The combination of Eastern and Western medicine. Because I do believe in science, and I do believe in these medications, and I believe that I need to be on a drug to help me combat this disease as a primary.
Well, and I'll just say, for especially people working in rheumatology, these medications are, and I say this often, but just for anyone who this is their first episode, that now in the year 2025, they've been shown overall at the population level, when you take large groups of people, that they're so safe and effective at this population at putting the disease into remission, which rheumatoid arthritis, if uncontrolled, is associated with a 7-year reduction in lifespan. So even though it's not as like life-threatening as cancer, it is not immediately life-threatening, but if long-term in your lifespan, it is. That they're so safe, actually, and effective that it's considered unethical to run a randomized control trial with an unmedicated control group, because you'd be denying science, and especially at the critical period at the initial diagnosis. But what else was I going to say? Oh, and the rheumatologists are seeing, they're actually having totally different conversations with the patients now than your pediatric rheumatologist or adult, whoever they were, whatever their training was, obviously wasn't good enough. But they're telling kids, yes, this sounds really scary when you look at the side effects, but we're seeing the numbers of kids going into remission, the numbers of kids who are able to play football, play basketball, dance. We've got people on Broadway. I'm a swing dancer, just as an example, that these medications have really given people their life back. So I always just try to help provide stories of the success stories too, backed with the data, because as we said, so many people are really nervous about taking the medication. But as you said, it's not either or medication or Eastern or lifestyle techniques. It's a both and. You can add in, why not add things that are also going to help your body, like exercise and other practices. So yeah.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And that was such a great explanation as to what is currently happening in our world. I mean, I'm not 100% in remission. Like I have pain every day, but the pain is so much more manageable in my life than it was 10 years ago.
And for me, it's almost like a case study. Like, it was like I was diagnosed with adult rheumatoid arthritis because I was 21. I'm not sure if back then when you were diagnosed, they used to call it juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. The name has now been changed to juvenile idiopathic arthritis, which is just because it's actually a different disease process. And especially I know you have jaw involvement. The jaw is often affected in juvenile idiopathic arthritis. It's not as often affected in adult rheumatoid, not that it can't be. But yeah, oh, sorry, I forgot what I was going with that. Oh, I just wanted to sprinkle that fact, and that's what it's called.
Right. And the idiopathic, just like you were saying. So because I was misdiagnosed so much early on, I mean, but I do believe that people believe that JRA is, for juveniles, but it's not the same disease. So I'm so glad you mentioned that because I get that question all the time. And I'm like, no, they're two different diseases. So
that's exactly why they changed the name, because it was so confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, however, no matter what you do, people are still confused, but at least it's a little bit. And they're actually had Zach Spinoza from Forge Fitness in Canada.
I don't know.
You guys are like peas in a pod because he was super athletic too. He not only got JRA or juvenile JRA at 16, then he had this very rare complication that's actually 30% deadly, 30% death rate from it, called macrophage activation syndrome. I just interviewed him for the podcast last week. I'm just like, you guys
wow.
got it. It's not good. He runs a gym called Forge Fitness, and it's all about, he survived, like he went from 180 pounds to 110 pounds, like with this really deadly complication of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And now he does a lot of weightlifting. So I'll connect you two.
I'd love to be connected with him. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because but you're both so passionate about like spreading the word about the importance of movement. And that's why I would love to hear more about how you started the Make It Count for Dani Foundation and what your mission is there, because it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. So in 2007 is when I finally went public with my disease. So I started speaking. And I first started with foundations that they have here in the United States that talk about arthritis. And so I started there and would put together events and teams and stuff like that. And it was always on my heart that I wanted to do something for other patients because I had received anonymous help at times. Again, I was on my own. I didn't have a whole lot of money. There would be people who would come out of the woodworks who would essentially fund things for me, whether it be just food on my table. So it was always on my heart to do that. And when I started Thrive Construction, after I got my business up and running, I essentially just said, you know what? I really want to put together a nonprofit that I could touch lives with. And so I hired a marketing company. I went to go see a lawyer. I put together the 501c3 for the Make It Count for Dani Foundation, which advocates, educates, encourages, and inspires those living with rheumatoid arthritis to always make it count. And I really started this mission because, like I had mentioned early on about the pendulum of the disease can take us to places we never thought we'd go. But we really have to believe that we can always be on the other side of it, right? Because hope is always possible, but it has to live within yourself. And so the Make It Count for Dani Foundation came together because I wanted to give people hope on moving forward. So sometimes movement isn't just physical, right? It's emotional, it's spiritual, it can be educational. We have to be able to accept where we are and keep going. Because it's easy to be hopeless and to be the woe is me and the victim of our chronic illnesses. And so my platform didn't start, Make It Count for Dani was always my handle, even my personal handle on Instagram. And then when I started the foundation, Then, which just happened 8 years ago, we've basically been a foundation for 8 years. Well, we're going on our 8th year, I should say. My marketing department was like, well, you really have to, your personal handle has to be for Make It Count for Dani Foundation because it only makes sense. And so I'm like, oh, really? So I had to well, actually, if you scrolled all the way down to my thousands of posts, you would actually see some of my early on my personal stuff.
That's what I did too.
Yeah. I mean, although the platform is me, everything I'm doing and what I'm promoting, a lot of it are the videos of me, doing these crazy things because I'm crazy.
You're yourself. And that's, I think it takes all kinds. And I think that's what people respond to is authenticity. And sometimes I just say, oh, I'm too out there, or I'm too extroverted, I'm too much for people or whatever. But then I remind myself, you're always going to be too much for someone, but you're going to be just right enough for someone else.
Absolutely. And I really pride myself on complete 100% authenticity and transparency. So there are times when I get up and I do a daily dose in the morning. So I do a daily dose for 60 seconds, right? It's called the Daily Dose of Dani. Do it in my kitchen. And I talk about what's going on in my life. I'm currently at 906 of those. And sometimes I cry during them because that's life. That's real life. And I do believe that the only way I can really touch another person is just being true to who I am as a person too. And so I've been able to relate with so many people all over the world. I mean, we send out movement packages. So
you read my mind. I was just going to ask you about those.
Sorry. So
No,
yeah,
it's
so
great.
at my website, there is a tab called Friends with RA, and I invite anybody to go there and click on the tab. And then you fill out the tab. It asks you a couple questions about RA or I've had other people that have other forms of arthritis because there are 100 forms of arthritis under the umbrella.
Yep.
They've gone and they've filled this out as well. And then I personally, myself, I read every single submission. I write a personalized letter and I send them a package that promotes movement. And it includes things in the package like a towel, sweat towel, and stickers and stress balls and hand sanitizer and lip balm. And I've literally landed those packages in 13 different countries. So
wow.
I've sent out thousands of movement swag items to give people hope. But I'll tell you, the number one thing they like in that package, what do you think it is? The number one thing that they like in that package, it's the personal note that I write them.
Oh, well, yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize you write a note too. I would have said that then.
Yeah, I personally write these notes, and because I read what they submit, and then usually I ask for how they have heard about me. So 9 times out of 10, they give me their social media handle. So I go to their page and I kind of, if it's public, usually if people are following me, I try to follow them back, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at their page so I can see what they're about, and I read some things, and then I literally write them a personal message. Now, it's a lot of work, Cheryl. Especially, I used to get submissions, number of submissions a month. And so I literally have to take an entire day just to write submissions. And I will tell you, it's pretty taxing on me emotionally as well, because I'm reading these very personal stories that I can relate with. So it's taking me back years as to how I felt. But the greatest gift I can give somebody is making sure that they know that I see them and I understand them. And I definitely have compassion to where they are in this journey.
Yeah.
And that's the mission is really about, to make sure that people feel seen and heard, as well as supported. And also, I want to give them hope. I don't want them, if they came from being a big athlete, then I want them to still believe they're an athlete. They just have to maybe do things differently.
I love that. In one of the previous episodes, now I'm forgetting which one because of brain fog, but we talked about how it's always the accomplishment of what you are able to do at any given moment in time is a function of your, the barriers you're overcoming in that moment. So for me, when I was in high school and I could run a mile in 5.5 minutes, that was me pushing my body at that time to that ultimate amount. Today, that means running a mile in 11.5 minutes. That's just as hard for me today as it was back then because of where my fitness is today. And we tend to celebrate things based on only what's the objective measure that, these minutes, you're twice as slow as you were. I could choose to look at that data and conclude that. But I could also choose to say, wow, in both of those moments, half my life ago and today, I'm choosing to keep moving and I'm doing something that I happen to enjoy. And it's just, I think that's why community, I mean, it's going to sound like a out of left field, but it's like being in community with others who are going through similar struggles. It's almost like sometimes you can see it easier when you're complimenting like a friend with arthritis. Wow, that was amazing. You walked for 10 minutes today and you normally don't get moving. That's amazing. Versus, but we tend to be harder on ourselves.
Oh, totally. And I kind of beat that with a dead horse. I'm always telling people about really focusing on these little wins because collectively little wins become big wins. And niche measures now, you know what? It's almost screw those. We need to be proud of the fact that every day we're getting up and we are moving forward with the pain, because I'm telling you, there isn't anybody that I know that suffers from RA that is like 100% pain free. Every day they're getting up and they're making a choice and they're choosing movement. And there is no doubt I can't tell you how many people have motivated me by the accomplishments that they have made that they don't seem to think are very big to them. But I'm like, are you kidding? That's amazing that you did that today. I mean, girl, I can't even run a mile. Okay. So running a mile is very difficult.
Yeah. No, I know. And I'm talking to my friend Carrie Bradshaw, who literally became the first person with bilateral hip replacements to ever run the Boston Marathon. And I'm like texting her, like, I ran a mile in under 12 minutes. She's like, you go, girl. When meanwhile, she's running like 26 miles. It was like, oh, on our own journeys.
I mean, that's why it's so important that we don't compare ourselves to others, right? It's so important that we just make goals for ourselves that are achievable and we aim for those every single day to make ourselves better. I mean, that's.
And you know what? I have to admit now, as somebody who's followed you on social media, I didn't think as deeply until today, talking to you in real time. This is why it's great to talk in real time about how moving forward is not just about the physical movement. Like you said, it's about emotional, spiritual, and educational. I'm curious, could you talk a little bit more about what that means to you and how you support people in doing that? Because that's just so important.
Oh, of course. So, and I think there's no doubt I'm a diehard. If you go to my platform, you think that I'm in the gym 24/7, right? I probably do nothing else to work out or hike a mountain, right?
Yeah.
But the reality to that is that, yes, physical movement is part of my everyday. I wake up every day at 3:30 and I start my day with movement because it sets the tone to my day. I also go to bed early, Cheryl. I saw you get really bright-eyed all of a sudden.
No.
I wake up at 3:30 every day.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy. I love the gym. I love the physical. But I also believe in meditation. And I believe attitude has been a main factor for me. So I have little sticky notes all over the place in my house that remind me of where I need to be with my attitude, because that makes a big difference. I do a lot of reading and I read a lot of self-help or documentary type stuff. So I can learn from the challenges that other people have gone through. And that has also opened my eyes to so many things. And I mean, we grab on to what works for us. And although I realize that attitude cannot change the physical challenges that I have, what I do focus on all the time is what I can do with those challenges. It's just been a vehicle for me. As far as spirituality goes, a belief system, a lot of people have their faith, and that faith gets them through so much. So whatever you believe in, I take a universal approach with that because I don't believe that one religion is better than the other. And I was part of a religious cult, which is a whole nother story.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
so yeah. So
I want a documentary on you. Like, I would watch that. It'll have to be like an 8-part.
So many people have said, when are you going to release the book? Because I've had so many twists and turns in my life. But luckily for me today, I sit in a better emotional mental space than I ever was before. Because depression is easy with chronic illness. It's easy to go there. It's easy to sit in it. And I think as social media is also a really great place for community, it can also be a negative place as well, where you're not seeing people like yourself. They're trying to build people up that are trying to continue to say that there are strides with where things are at with our diseases. And I have to continue that momentum, just like you, because I would see these things that were just so detriment and negative, and they would take my mental space. Oh yeah, maybe I can't do that. And it's no, but wait a minute. So yeah, so it all plays a part. The emotional, the spiritual, the mental, right? That's all a big part of how we move forward. And I hope that people will see that when they listen to this.
100%. I love what you said about you're changing your attitude or examining your attitude and your emotional relationship to your condition. It's not necessarily going to put the disease spontaneously into remission or something. It's not going to change maybe the fact that you have a quote unquote fixed deformity on a certain joint or something, but it changes your relationship to your body. And that's huge. It reminds me of that Shakespeare quote, like nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I think that all the time. Right? Or I don't know if have you read Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning?
I haven't read that.
Okay, people love it. It's along with The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, which is like a primer on like acceptance and commitment therapy. Those are the two big, most influential like nonfiction books for me. But he says, this is like a quote I've been kicking around for my whole experience. I read this in high school, so before even chronic illness, but he says, everything can be taken from a man, but the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose our attitude in any situation, that's what he said. I think that's what he says. Let me make sure, I'm going to look it up. And like Victor, he lived through the Holocaust, and he talked about like this fact that this whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs isn't really true. The fact that in Maslow's hierarchy of needs is you have to first have it. It's true and not true. Okay. The part of it that's not true is that it's saying you can't even get to the spiritual and the meaning part until you have all those things taken care of, like your basic human needs, which he was saying even in the Holocaust, when we were starving, and honestly, cannot speak about any of this in any sort of authoritative way, but that he said, we still were searching for meaning. We were still searching for some sort of fulfillment and purpose. Okay. He said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And I repeat that.
I love it.
I think sometimes I think it's challenging because I do think that there are, like, as an occupational therapist, if I try to think, okay, let me play devil's advocate there, like maybe there are like intellectual disabilities or traumatic brain injuries that make it so that I'm not sure we really understand enough what the human psyche to say that every single human has the complete ability, right, to choose their attitude or to influence it. But I think just as a general guidepost to say, okay, I have freedom. No matter how much pain I'm in, I have freedom to examine my thoughts around what's going on and to choose a different way of looking at it.
For sure. For sure.
What have been some of you mentioned documentaries and books. What have been some of the books in documentaries? So I love documentaries too, by the way. We should start our own documentary movie book club. What are some of the books that you really loved?
So I just read, I'm sure that a lot of people have read Untamed by Glennon Doyle. That's one of my favorites. I really loved that book. I'm actually I just finished Too Strong, which is about a runner who was physically abused. Anything by Brene Brown I just love her. So it's daring greatly. And she's just so much wisdom, right? And she's probably my very favorite. But I read Everything All at Once recently. But that's a documentary. Her name is Stephanie. I did a daily dose on that. And essentially her husband got really sick during COVID. So this was written right after COVID. And they thought that he had COVID. He had like stage 4 lung cancer, big time runner. He's from Arizona. And that book was so moving to me on how it was written. So that's one of my very favorite books. And I just literally, a friend gave it to me last year to read. So that would be good. I've read a lot of the Brene Brown stuff is pretty good. Oh, and then That's Bold of You, which is by Casey. Oh, I don't have all my books here anymore. I started packing my house because I'm doing a renovation. I'm going to be doing a renovation soon.
Well, you can't work for a construction company without doing your own renovation, I'm assuming.
Casey Kenny is his name. And that's bold of you. Very good book about how to handle situations in life. And I've talked about a lot of his quotes too in my daily doses over the last year. So
Okay, I've got to check that out. I would add, because it's on my mind, that if you're thinking about movies, documentary movies, a one that came out in 2005, so 2 years after my diagnosis, this came out. It's one of the things that inspired me to become an occupational therapist. It's called Murder Ball. It's not about murder. Murder Ball is the name of what is called quad rugby or wheelchair rugby. It's a documentary about men who've had, in this case, although now the wheelchair rugby team has actually a woman who is also an occupational therapist, long story short, in the Olympic team, but it's men who, in this case, play wheelchair rugby and go to the Olympics. And just, it was the first time I had seen like para games, people with disabilities playing sports in ways where they're just kicking butt. It was really inspirational. And that's what I really love. But it's not necessarily in the vein of Brené Brown. It's not like instructing you. It's more
showing
personal
you
stories. Yeah.
I love that. I'll look it up.
I've already jumped ahead to one of the quote unquote rapid fire questions at the end, but I just had to go on it because we were talking about the importance of those things. And I'm similar to you. I consider myself like spiritually like a secular humanist, which is a belief that you don't need to follow a specific religious faith in order to honor and support other humans in the world and believe that humans don't necessarily need, and this is my interpretation of it, humans don't, they can have or not have a belief in a bigger power, but that whether you have that or not doesn't matter. What we need to do is actually help each other. I mean, that's I love it. Yeah, so, I love it. And I don't care what you believe in, as long as you're not hurting anyone, which unfortunately, people are in the name of their faith. But yeah, and the other thing, okay, I like to hyperfixate on what people are saying and then delve more. One of the things you said, one of my favorite words, which is acceptance, which used to be my least favorite word. So you said we have to accept where we are and keep going. If I type that down right, I'm just curious, literally I didn't prepare for this question, but what's your relationship to the idea of acceptance been and how has that changed over time?
So acceptance was really difficult for me with the disease because I didn't want to believe it was my life.
Yeah.
Living with rheumatoid arthritis, I just thought that isn't me. And early on, like you, when we were going through those encyclopedias and seeing those photos, we're like, there's no way in hell this is happening to me. And I fought it. And like I said, I digressed and I was such a negative person without acceptance. I really was, because I was like, no, this isn't, I was furious and angry. And once I discovered that acceptance was actually the key to the part of me finding my new life. Okay, this is where I'm at. Okay, so this is going to be a part of me. Now it's time for me to define this disease instead of the disease defining me, because that's what was happening, right? That's what I feel strongly about. When you don't accept it and you're trying to just battle against it, it's working against you negatively. Because it takes our mind to a place of resistance instead of, okay, well, here's where I'm at. And now I've got to learn to be better for it. And being an athlete, being a hardcore committed to my sports, I think that also helped me today once I accepted the disease, because I have felt so much stronger because of it. And I've heard that a lot from the community too. People who resonate with my story, when they've done their submission, they've literally said, one of the questions I ask is, how has RA changed your life in a positive way? Because I think it's important that we focus on it. How is chronic illness changing your life in a positive way instead of a negative way? Because it's easy to point out all the things that it's doing against you. But let's focus on, how is it changing your life in a positive way? And people are saying, I never really truly knew how strong I really was until I had to accept RA and live with it every day.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I'm just like, yes, I'm nodding. I'm nodding in a way that doesn't hurt my neck. I have neck pain from a chronic neck pain from a car accident years ago. But yeah, no, I think I call it the acceptance paradox. It feels like the word acceptance, if you're like, I'm very stubborn. Okay. I'm stubborn and optimistic. My husband and I both say that we're both stubborn and optimistic. It's taken us to the best places in our life. It's taken us to the worst places in my life, because if you are optimistic to the point of delusional, but you're too stubborn to admit that's not working for you, that what you had decided to not give up on, as let's say, what I don't want to give up on is this idea that I can have a quote unquote normal life, a life without RA at all. That is not a life we get. We just don't get it. And it's hard for people to accept because it feels like they cling to it so desperately, and it feels like to let go of that attachment would mean to be giving up. But actually, when you do, the paradox is that you are set free. But I don't know how to explain this to people because it did not make sense to me until I actually was willing to do it. And it was after like hours of therapy. Have you ever gone to therapy? Speaking of therapy?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
But okay, good. Because you did it. Not good, but I'm just saying, if you did, now be like, how did you get through everything you've been through?
I wouldn't have survived. I mean, I have an incredible therapist, and yeah, she's worth her weight in gold, and it's very expensive, but yeah.
Did she teach? Because that's how I really had to have one-on-one help to get my head around acceptance. I kept being like, I was like the line in Zoolander where David Duchovny this is what a history of male models make good assassins. And he gives this long explanation, and Derek Zoolander's like, but why male models? Are you kidding? I like literally just told you that. That's like probably how my therapist felt like week after week. It was like once I was willing to really accept it, then that opens you up to a life with this condition and without fighting it all the time. It just
agreed.
Yeah. It's just I hyperfixate whenever anyone mentions acceptance. I was like, let's talk about acceptance.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've talked to as an occupational therapist and an allied health provider, I have talked at conferences and stuff to other counselors, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, and some of them will say that we don't even if we're practicing acceptance and commitment therapy, which is known as ACT, that's the therapeutic approach that I find the most helpful for my RA overall. It's kind of like if mindfulness and traditional cognitive behavior therapy had a baby. They say we don't even use the word acceptance with our patients because they're too resistant to it. But I'm on like a charge of like changing the public relations for acceptance. Like we are going to change how people feel about acceptance so that they're willing to look at it.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we'll have to do some sort of acceptance campaign. But also, it's about ACT is great for many other reasons. But actually, I don't want to get into that because I want to use our last 10 minutes together to get through some of the rapid fire quote unquote questions. But was there anything else you wanted to say about the Make It Count for Dani Foundation or your story? I mean, I know we could record hours and hours, but is there anything else on your mind?
I mean, other things that we do with the foundation is we do provide college scholarships to younger patients who have been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. We provide modalities and things for people. I just did a partnership with Barefoot Science. So I do shoe inserts for people. So I handed out about 12 pairs of shoe inserts last month. So people are trying those, different patients who are suffering some foot problems. And I really love the science behind Barefoot Science. So I'm doing what I can, where I can. And usually when I start a conversation with another patient, I can figure out what they need. So we're here to help, right? And we're here to provide and offer solutions that will make life a little bit more palatable living with rheumatoid arthritis.
That's amazing. And I think it's like this, I've heard this phrase, I can't take credit for it, but turning your pain into purpose. It's just such a beautiful example how you've done that. So I will put links. I'll put links to everything you've discussed in the show notes, which are always on like the Arthritis Life website. But to the rapid fire questions, what are some of everything you said would be useful to somebody who's newly diagnosed. But is there something in particular you'd like to say to someone listening who might have been just brand new diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis?
Well, this comes up a lot because I get all these direct messages.
About?
Again, like I was saying a little bit earlier, I want to have compassion for where they are. And because everybody's start can be so different, everybody's pain can look so different. And so I want to have compassion and again, make sure that they know that I do see them and that I'm here to offer them some help and assistance in order to believe that there is the new life available to them, right? We have to make some adjustments. And really, truly, it's just like on your website, you give all of these tips. There is so much great information out there that if we can try to just keep that attitude to where I understand being down in the dumps about the diagnosis, but I just don't want you to stay there. And so what I'm always trying to do is pick people up. It's why I tag them in a video, or I do a new person who maybe asked me one question and I'll tag them in a video because I want them to know that I listened to what they wrote. I listened to what they said. I read what they wrote, and here's something for them today. And so hope is powerful, and any faith that you have or the faith in yourself is also very powerful. And we have to believe that we can do this. We can keep moving forward, finding balance in our lives with living with the disease. And that's truly the most important thing that I can instill in anybody who's been newly diagnosed, and being open to what science has available to us, because it's huge.
Yeah, I love that. And I was just going to add, I remember something I was going to say earlier about the relationship between in the science, pain science right now. Everyone who works in pain science, as far as I've learned from and heard at conferences and stuff, is in agreement of the overall biopsychosocial framework of pain. Pain is not just about signals from a nerve ending from your toe up to your brain. Yes, that is part of it, but it is heavily influenced by our social environment, social stressors, and our emotions. And so it really truly is, it's not just, well, all pain is processed in the brain to begin with. So doing things, changing your attitude truly can change your relationship to pain and your pain perception itself.
Agreed. You know what? I'm so curious. I'm sure that there was an article that came out recently in the New York Times regarding
Vagus nerve.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's also the book out called The Great Nerve. And one of my physical therapists is reading it. And everybody thinks locally, just like I'm sure all of the people that you have in your life, whenever anybody reads anything about rheumatoid arthritis, they send it to me. So I literally had 10 people text me the article that was published about the nerve, right? And then I had Haley send me a picture. I'm reading this book about the great nerve. I got to send you these pages about, it seems really promising for rheumatoid arthritis. So anyways.
No, what's so funny is it's been FDA approved for gastroparesis in certain countries and rheumatoid arthritis. So I brought it up to my doctor 3 to 5 years ago. I brought it up to her because I was like, this is so fascinating that it can work for both rheumatoid, because I have gastroparesis too, which is it's a disorder of the autonomic nervous system where those contractions that move food down my stomach are just 5 times slower than a regular person for me. And so I'm like, this is just fascinating that this could work for both. And so I've been waiting. She's it's not FDA approved yet. So now I'm going to ask her at my next appointment.
Yeah, you never know. Sorry, I had to bring that up really quick.
It's so timely. And I also wanted to ask, I think I might know what this is, but do you have a favorite quote or inspirational saying or mantra for tough days?
Oh, girl, you already know it. I got to make it count. Like, yesterday. So, and I think truly to people who have experienced what we have experienced with the diagnosis, they realize that they don't take anything for granted, right? Like we realize so much about life that we don't take for granted. It can be opening a water bottle. I have to use a water bottle that has a handle on this so I can open it, right? And so, yeah, so I'm like, every day we just have to make it count to the best way, shape, and form we can, right? And that'll be my mantra till the day I die.
I love it. No, and I've seen so many people through my rheumatoid arthritis support groups become part of your online community too. And I see them saying, I'm going to make it count today. I just love it because it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, but it applies so broadly to every situation in life. So I love it. Last one, this is just a little casual question. What does it mean? I'm laughing because this is like the long question, but what does it mean to you to thrive and live a good life with rheumatoid arthritis?
What does it mean to me?
I got a better way of saying that.
Well, first of all, I love that you're using the word thrive as well. I mean, that's a word for you. It's a word for me because of my company. But
yeah, no, the name of your construction company is amazing.
I think it all starts with the balance of living a great life the best way we know how, because we only get one chance at it, right? So thriving to me every day is getting up and trying my best. And then it ends with to make this day count for me. So that's everything that I live and breathe on, because every day I'm going to work, and because I work for Thrive Construction, I'm thriving.
Well, and it really it's back to what we're talking about with acceptance, because it's like you're living this like alignment with, yes, you have barriers, right? That you have something that's challenging in some ways to live with, but you're not fighting it every day. Your life is the activation of what's meaningful and purposeful for you, which is just really beautiful to me. So,
I'm doing my best. I'm doing the best I can. And it's just like the whole thing, like not every day is a good day, but I can always find something good in the day, right? I can always find something good in the day. And so I do remind people of that all the time too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be putting links where people can find you online, where they can find your website. There's also donations, because it is a 501c3 nonprofit. I just want to make sure to shout that out, that people, if they want to support your work, please go to her website. And just thank you so much for your time today. I feel inspired and I'm ready to make it count today and every day.
Awesome.
Talking to you. Yeah, and we accidentally matched. So you guys have to go to the YouTube video. How we accidentally matched. Exact same like shade of maroon today.
Absolutely. I feel like you need some yellow in there, but you thought about the
I missed something. I knew it. Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Everyone, hope you all go and support Dani, because she's awesome. All right. I have always have a hard time saying, it's like when you start to say goodbye on the phone, you're like, bye. I think I have a hard time ending the episodes.
Of course. Yeah. I understand.
Thank you so much. Whoops. My video zoomed out on me. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Make it count.
Thank you so much for listening. This podcast is supported by Room to Thrive, an educational program I created to help empower you to live life to the fullest with rheumatic disease. In the program, you're going to learn evidence-based tools for managing all the ways rheumatic disease affects your life. And my goal is to help you go from overwhelmed to confident, supported, and connected in a matter of weeks. You can go through the pre-recorded modules on your own in the self-paced course, or you can take the course along with a robust support group of new arthritis friends to support you and cheerlead you along the way. Learn more in the link in my show notes, or you can always go to www.myarthritislife.net. And if you like this podcast, I'd be so honored if you took the time to rate and review it. I also encourage you to share it with anyone you know who might benefit from it. I also want to remind you that you can find full transcripts, videos, and detailed show notes with hyperlinks for each episode on the Arthritis Life website, plus full episode videos on the Arthritis Life YouTube channel. If you have any ideas for content for future episodes, or you want to share your story on the podcast, please send me, Cheryl, an email at info@myarthritislife.net. I can't wait to hear from you, and thanks so much again for your time.